Hello everyone. Today, we will be doing a general analysis of a cryptid. The subject of this credibility analysis being ASP11. This analysis has a clearance level of 1. The Dogman looks strikingly similar to a werewolf or lycanthrope. These creatures are so striking that when I first heard of them, I almost instinctively dismissed them, stating that there's no way werewolves are real, just like unicorns and vampires. However, that is not the line of thought that should be taken at the ASP Foundation. A member of the Foundation, Missy Sterling, helped me to see that there is a swath of anecdotal evidence and that I should look deeper into these creatures. I found information that supports their biological plausibility. We will review this information together and do a general analysis of the Dogman. I'm going to start by analyzing Bob Gymlan's Beasts of Bray Road video. The member of the Foundation I mentioned earlier, Missy Sterling, is in contact with him, so I will attempt to get his thoughts on my comments to his video. The first thing I noticed was something I myself did when first looking into Dogman. Bob, as I did, referred to these creatures as a werewolf. To me, this is indicative of a bias. I should know, as I had the exact same bias. Some of what he does to try to disprove Dogman was look at the witness accounts and relay why things would have happened differently if in fact Dogman was a physical cryptid. For one story of a couple of 13-year-olds, he claims that if the parents believed their kids, they would have sent a whole search party to find this thing. But why would they believe them? Bob certainly doesn't. Bob himself claims that this was on Halloween later in the video, and that claim is a double-edged knife. All the reasons he doesn't believe it are the same reasons a parent may not. If a parent believed there is a wolf in the area, of course they would be extremely concerned. However, if a couple of kids claim to be chased by a werewolf for half a mile on Halloween, I wouldn't give it a second thought. And about chasing them for half a mile, there are a few reasons Dogman may not have caught them. One is that these are 13-year-olds. How good do you think they are at judging distance? Did they really run half a mile? I've spoken with someone by the name of Alex who runs a podcast called That's Effin Weird. He cited that in his day job, he has to constantly get people to try to judge distance. To me, this makes him a credible source for understanding how well witness accounts can do the same. He says the error rate is staggering, and the episode he discusses in will be linked in the description. So maybe not half a mile, but for someone to think it is half a mile, it must have been pretty far, right? Well, they said it was chasing them the whole time. How do we know that to be true? I don't like doubting witness reports to this degree, but they were 13 and adrenaline rattled. How often do you think they looked back while running? Maybe they said it chased them until they finally looked back, which was what they thought to be half a mile. At the end of this, Bob asks if werewolves do bluff charges too. To me, mentioning the name werewolf indicates his bias is leaking through and thinks of only the monster from legend chasing down people, rather than an animal trying to avoid conflict, just as any Bigfoot or any other animal would. There's a strong possibility that this was in fact a bluff charge. In fact, it is extremely likely as it corresponds to other accounts. Another point to mention that I will bring up further on is the biology of Dogman. They may hunt differently than any other predator and their body is not made for running. If the biology is akin to how it will be analyzed later in this video, then no, it could not have caught them. Although I feel the bluff charge is more likely than this reason, and I don't necessarily subscribe to the idea. Maybe not all of these reasons are true, but there are a few things to consider that Bob may have missed. He also dismissed another sighting because the same person saw the creature twice. To me, this indicates Bob's bias once more. He's interviewed witnesses with multiple encounters or who shared 3 stories and found them to be credible. When there is a rash of sightings in an area, wouldn't it be more likely for those sightings to occur more than once to the same person? He does not give any other reason for the sighting to be false, so I'll move on to the next one. He claims that since it spoke devil words and was from hell, that this is essentially discredited. He said since it was spiritual, it does not add anything zoological. I disagree. I've seen on Bob's channel himself and during much of my Mothman research spiritual sightings. With witness accounts, everything is based on subjective experiences. There are many out there who are religious and tie a religious connotation to absolutely everything. Bob discounts Bigfoot being spiritual. Does that mean since there are some spiritual sightings of Bigfoot, the creature simply does not exist, and any spiritual tie to any Bigfoot sighting immediately discredits it as any use zoologically? I don't believe so. When people feel evil emanating from a cryptid or claim a cryptid feels demonic, does that mean it's a hell beast from another dimension? No. It means it's scary and powerful, and a religious person ties scary with hell. When someone blames a Mothman sighting on pagan worshippers, does that mean it was someone from another dimension? No. It means they're Christian. When someone says it went away when they prayed, does that give any spiritual tie? No. It means they were praying more than half their encounter, and when the animal finally left, they associated the two. Of course it will leave after you pray if you are always praying. And do you think it would have stuck around if you didn't? No. Animals don't show up and decide to spend the night. Correlation does not equal causation, and it's a logical fallacy to think so. He then goes on to talk about how an unverified animal should have sightings from different locations over the span of many years and over various cultures, and should be reported by various segments of society. He talks about people believing in Dogman and associates the Beasts of Bray Road with it. However, he only uses the Beasts of Bray Road sightings as if they are the only sightings of Dogman. He clearly knows the name of this cryptid, yet couldn't find the swath of sightings online all across the continent. That seems like a stretch to me. I'm not accusing Bob of anything, and I have great respect for him, but to have missed all this seems like a statistical bias, to me at least. Or, what is more likely, is he only found the famed Michigan Dogman and didn't realize there was more to it. I guess someone just missed the Dogman subreddit, and I don't blame him. Reddit can drain your sanity more than an actual Dogman encounter. I've also gotten reports from all over, even as far as Italy and Germany. I will link these reports in the description. This could have very well inspired the lichen and werewolf legends of Europe. As for the Beast of Bray Road itself, well, I found there have been sightings since at least the 1930s. But this whole story only gained any traction after the 1980s and 1990s sightings. So for Bob to say it has not been reported in the way he described is just plain false. As mentioned before, he claims since it was Halloween, this was just a fad for the holiday. While that may be true, it should not entirely discount all these sightings just because of a nearby holiday, especially when he doesn't use that fact for the parents believing their children as mentioned before, which to me is ignorance of evidence in one area and confirmation bias in the other. These creatures have been reported on days that are not Halloween as well, so the claim does not hold much water. Bob is a great researcher, and I feel he will understand that in the pursuit of science, we must be critical of ourselves and our research from 2016. He even acknowledged his own possible bias and stated he could be wrong. This is why he is one of the best researchers there is. Not to sing his praises too much. I hope he sees this and we can have a more in-depth discussion on the Dogman. As for the biology he discussed, there is no reason for a wolf to arbitrarily go to bipedalism. That much is true, but there are good reasons, so I would not consider it arbitrary. I will share with you a source analyzing its biology, then I will add further comments on their points after. The first source I would like to cite is by Reddit user Facetus33. They created a post titled An In-Depth Analysis of Speculative Dogman Behavior, Biology, and Biomechanics. I am now going to narrate this post and add some of my own comments after. Disclaimer. First of all, let me state that I have never encountered these creatures, or any cryptid for that matter. I would like to believe that they exist. I think the idea of a large bipedal wolf is really cool. Secondly, I study biology and exercise science in college, where I've taken various anatomy and human movement classes. While obviously there's not a one-to-one comparison for human versus dogman movement and anatomy, the same general principles apply. Thirdly, I am by no means an animal behavior expert, or a dogman expert, and I've never really studied the subjects much, but I will make assumptions based on speculative biology, though it makes sense given their anatomy. Introduction. Let's start with the typical description of a dogman. 7 to 9 feet tall on 2 legs, large head with tall pointed ears. For this analysis, I am going to use the description of canine-type legs, hulking shoulders, barrel chest, and long arms. Seemingly intelligent with the ability to problem solve, raccoon-type hands, and a mouthful of teeth. I will compare a tail versus no tail later on. Head. Starting with the massive heads described on these creatures, we run into very interesting cause for this. The reason for this massive head would be due to the intelligence described by some witnesses. The brain-to-body ratio in humans is 1 to 40, while in canines the ratio is 1 to 125. The brain of a gray wolf is about 119.5 grams. An adult chim's brain is about 384 grams, and an adult human's brain is about 1,352 grams. If we were to say that a dogman has about the same brain power as a chimp, their brain would automatically be about 3.2 times larger than that of a normal gray wolf, and thus the head would have to reflect this size increase. Brain power is also a large caloric expense and will require a large amount of calories just to keep running. Their large stature would also require a significant amount of calories. This means that they would need to be omnivorous in order to meet their caloric needs, or have to hunt and scavenge fairly consistently in order to meet these needs. Given the description of their teeth being pointed and sharp leads me to the conclusion that they are primarily carnivorous though. Another way they would be able to get extra nutrients would be to have powerful enough jaws to crack bones like hyenas do in order to access bone marrow. This would require powerful jaw muscles and a shorter muzzle to produce the necessary amount of force to crack bone. This need for consistent sustenance would also rule out the idea of them being pack hunters. Having to divide food among a pack would mean less food for the individual and require more hunting to sustain a large group. They would end up spending more energy hunting than they could feasibly sustain and would ultimately starve. I would suspect their behavior to more closely resemble that of a maned wolf. The maned wolf is a solitary wolf and is the tallest of all the known canids. As its name suggests, it has a mane which has been described in some Dogman sighting. Interestingly though, the maned wolf also makes a call known as a roar bar. It is as terrifying as it sounds. I would like to know from anyone who has heard a Dogman vocalization how a roar bar compares to what you've heard. Neck. Moving to the neck. A dogman would need extremely powerful neck muscles to support its massive head while in a quadrupedal stance. Humans can get away with less powerful neck muscles since our skull is placed vertically along the spinal column. Canids, on the other hand, require much larger brachiophalicus and sternomastoidus muscles to support their heads. These muscles on a dogman would have to be enormous if they were to take true quadrupedal stance. Upper body. Their stance brings me to the next point about their arms and torso. In order to properly transition between a bipedal and quadrupedal stance, a dogman would need the long arms described in some encounters. The reason humans cannot easily take a quadrupedal stance like other primates is because of our shorter arms and longer legs. Foot anatomy also comes into play, but I will discuss that later. This arm and leg setup is designed for our bipedal stance. If we look at gorillas versus humans, they have significantly longer arms and shorter legs. While they can walk on two legs, they cannot do so comfortably for extended periods of time due to their center of mass being located higher up. Due to the human structure, our center of mass is located just above our pelvis. The center of mass on a gorilla is higher up due to them having larger arms, meaning that there is a lot more weight on their upper half than their lower half. This leads me to conclude that dogmen are working with a similar framework. By taking a gorilla-like stance where the spine is aligned at an angle, this would allow dogman to have smaller brachiocephalicus and sternomastoidus muscles, still significantly larger than humans or wolves, since a portion of the weight of the head would be supported by the spine. In this stance, they would be able to more easily transition between bipedal and quadrupedal stances. Their large chest muscles would likely be used to push themselves off the ground to initiate the change in stance. Lower body. Moving to the legs, they would likely have to have shorter legs than their arms. The canid shape of the legs would allow the legs to function more like shorter limbs, but keep a lot of the power and stride length of longer legs. What is commonly referred to as the backward knee of dogs is actually their heel. This structure allows for a spring-like motion in canid legs and generates a lot of power when running. The only problem with canid type legs would be the size of the actual paw portion. Think about standing on your tiptoes. It's a lot harder to balance when on your toes. This is because of the smaller surface for weight distribution. As a general trend, we see that the larger the height of an organism, the larger the surface area of their feet. Humans accomplish this by having our heel as a standing platform. Dogman, on the other hand, runs into a problem with its canine-like feet. If we optimistically give dogman a paw size with the same surface area to height ratio of a human, the higher center of mass would cause this creature significant balance problems. A true upright position would also cause significant strain to the tendons and ligaments of the ankle joint, as well as the tendons connecting the paw to the ankle. This is largely due to the weight of the upper body and the leverage that weight places on the extra joints of the canine-style muscles. They would require extra musculature along the metatarsals that is not seen in canid biology in order to stand completely upright. I conclude that this is why many people see dogman in squatted and hunched positions, because it makes balancing on two legs easier. This is where the tail comes into play. The tail would obviously be used for balance when moving on 4 and 2 legs. The tail would have to have some weight behind it in order to act as a counterbalance to the large upper body when moving in bipedal fashion. A tail with a decent amount of weight would help in moving the center of mass back over the hips to maintain balance. Their balance on 2 legs would still not be optimal and would therefore need to be moving forward or bracing themselves against something in order to remain upright. Conclusion. Ultimately, why I see dogman as a biologically plausible structure, it has a few glaring weaknesses that would make it very biologically and biomechanically inefficient. Nature does not tend to favor highly specialized organisms. The ability to change stances between biped and quadruped is unique and at times useful, but not efficient. Due to its sheer size and weight distribution, it would not be able to chase down and kill agile prey. If a dogman were to try to chase down prey, it would not be able to change direction quickly and without tearing ligaments or even breaking bones. This is true in both quadrupedal or bipedal stance. It would have to be an ambush predator that would rely on stealth to sneak up on prey. However, it runs into another problem. Its sheer size would make sneaking up on prey extremely difficult. Thus, dogman would have to be an almost entirely omnivorous scavenger to survive. Ironically, it would fill a very similar niche to that of the extinct short-faced bear, aka cave bear. The short-faced bear was an ice age bear that dwarfed even the polar bear. It stood 6 foot tall at the shoulder in a quadrupedal stance and was an omnivorous scavenger. Its large size was ultimately its demise, going extinct due to lack of of prey large enough to fulfill his caloric needs. Due to the increased brain power of Dogman, it would need at least as much food as the short-faced bear did. Due to this information, I see the Dogman structure as plausible, but I do not think it to be probable from a biological standpoint. Now, if Dogman are of supernatural origin, that is another story entirely. That being said, I do not think that Dogman would be an efficient and sustainable organism. TLDR, Dogman runs into a significant amount of flaws as a biological organism and therefore would not be sustainable. It could exist as a supernatural entity, but that is beyond my realm of knowledge. Okay, so there's a lot to break down here. One thing to mention is what I referred to when analyzing Bob's video. Due to its sheer size and weight distribution, it would not be able to chase down and kill agile prey. This makes the report by the 13-year-olds even more credible given its physiology, rather than a reason to discredit them. As for the reason to transition to a bipedal and quadrupedal lifestyle, there are a few factors here as well. Bob Gymlan mentions that there is no reason for a wolf to evolve bipedalism. Here are the reasons a wolf would evolve to and already does use bipedalism. As mentioned, it would most likely be omnivorous, with its sharp teeth indicating a mainly carnivorous lifestyle. Most wolves are primarily carnivorous but will eat plant life given a dire food situation. This sets a precedent for wolves to possibly evolve a more plant-based diet while remaining mainly carnivorous. Akin to how giraffes evolved longer necks to reach the nutrients on taller plants and trees, wolves may have evolved more bipedalism to reach plant life that grows higher up. If you know much about bears, you probably know they can walk on 2 feet. And if you have ever had a pet dog or looked up cute animal videos on the internet, you know that canines have the capacity to do the same and can be quite good at it for periods of time. In fact, many animals have this capability, but choose not to use it. Given enough evolution, I'm sure something like this could occur. This can be done for, as mentioned before, getting berries or plants, but also to get a better look at something, to intimidate, or to achieve a better position to attack or defend. Even with Dogman, the reports indicate that walking or running on all fours is still their movement method of choice, typically as a sort of default. As mentioned on the Reddit post, they believe it would be able to fill in the same niche as the short-faced bear. Obviously, the climate and environment of North America today is much different. However, this creature is also different. It could exist and sustain itself in the same way the short-faced bear did before it went extinct. Although this point was made with the assumption that it could not be an ambush predator due to its sheer size, bears are quite large and are rarely noticed as they stalk humans. However, I am not a scientist, so take what you will from that. Something I'd like to add to its biology is that it is nocturnal. Wolves are already nocturnal, and if we believe they evolved from wolves, they would keep that trait as there's not much reason to change it. A lot of the sightings are at night, so it fits the description. Another point is that they mention these creatures being good scavengers, and that if they change their muzzles to be shorter via evolution, they could reach bone marrow. Wolves already have teeth that are heavy and large, making them better suited to crushing bone than those of other canids. If they specialize, it would not take much to reach that point, and the reports reflect them having a shorter muzzle. As to the point about being ambush predators, they have been reported chasing deer, but a large portion of sightings describe taking a while to notice them, and one report even states that it was a master of camouflage and hiding in the dark. Now let's review some characteristics in sighting. First, how many Dogman sightings are there? Well, it's hard to say. However, we do know that on a channel called Dogman Encounters, they have at least 402 episodes currently and are still making more. I've not reviewed all of them because there's roughly 300 to 500 hours of content spanning 7 years, and it is simply unfeasible. However, I did review a portion. That's 400 reports from one channel alone. He also runs a site where you can report sightings called dogmanencounters.com, where there are an additional 120 to 150 sightings. I did not mention this in my Mothman video, but just like in that video, I did not count the reports on the dedicated subreddit, which usually come in on a daily basis. These reports could add to the numbers substantially. Reddit is simply too difficult to search through, however, and keeping track is more difficult, so sadly it will be omitted for the purposes of this video. However, keep in mind a large swath of sightings exists there. The Michigan Dogman creates a precedent for it being sighted in 1887, if you believe that story. There are also a few dozen encounters from that rash of sightings too. Reports have been traced back further, as far as the 1700s, or even indigenous traditions or local legends such as the Rougarou. Given that one YouTube channel has 400 sightings, there is the subreddit, and reports dating back to the 18th or 19th century, there is definitely a precedent for this creature existing, and to me the sheer number of reports and many historical accounts add credibility to the story. Although many dismiss anecdotal evidence, in these quantities with this unknown of a cryptid, with this many historical accounts, there's a solid case to be made using anecdotes alone, especially considering if we analyze credibility. On the Dogman Encounters channel, everyone that goes on volunteers to have an entire interview without even disclosing their name half the time for this cryptid that is unknown to a great deal of the public. If people were going to all that trouble, taking hours out of their day and creating intricate stories, all for something no one will see or change anything in the discussion, while either putting their reputation at stake or hiding their name and getting no credit. If we look at episode 258 for example, we would take more than 2 hours out of their day, concoct this intricate of a story, do research on multiple cryptids to fit multiple accounts, give locations and names, all for a hoax. This man is telling the truth, and sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction. To me, these 400 people willing to contact someone and give a genuine description with factually correct accounts on geography of the area that gets confirmed by commenters, and plausible encounters means these are not hoaxes. These are also not misidentified Bigfoot. Bob said it himself in his video, and despite the fact that I disagree with some of the points made in that video, I still have great respect for Bob as a researcher, and even in 2016, he could definitely understand the difference, knowing him. Just to quickly reiterate what he said, if we can believe that a witness can differentiate between a bear and Sasquatch, the same should be said for Sasquatch and Dogman, and he makes a wonderful point. In the 150 or so reports that I read on Dogman Encounters website, there was also a wildlife biologist. If someone like that says they know what they saw, I'm inclined to believe them. Or do expert opinions not matter anymore if they disagree with a certain view? Now I present to you our document on ASP-11. ASP-11 is commonly referred to as Dogman. It is 5 to 9 feet tall on 2 legs and 3 to 6 feet at the shoulder when on all fours. It is a large head with tall pointed ears. The size of the head is to make room for its larger than average brain due to increased intelligence. It has hulking, broad shoulders, a barrel chest, accentuated deltoid muscles, and elongated arms that hang lower than the creature's knees. It has deeply descending rib cage. The waist of this canine is slender. On the subject's legs, it has accentuated quad muscles in the front of its thighs that lead down to less prominent calf muscles. The creature has angled back hocks akin to that of a dog or wolf. The creature's hind paws can measure larger than 11 inches long, with its front hand typically measuring in at similar sizes. It has a mid-sized tail used for balance. It has matted brown, gray, or black fur which is occasionally silver-tipped or patterned white, covering its torso, legs, arms, top of their feet, and the back of the creature's hand. The fur is thickest on its head, neck, chest, and upper back. There is a little bit of hair coming off the points of its ears, making the ears seem a little longer. The skin color of the animal can range from black to a light tan color. The eye color of Dogman typically can range from yellow to red with some deviation. This creature has a raccoon style of hands with elongated fingers that end in a point at the finger's extremity. They also have long, sharp claws at said extremity that are about 3 to 6 inches long. They have skinny hind legs akin to that of a wolf or dog. They make howl noises which sound akin to that of a wolf howl and a human scream. This canine has a mouth full of sharp teeth, and it is in the shape of a snout that has become mildly shorter due to a scavenger lifestyle where this creature would need to break bones to access bone marrow. They are omnivorous, however this ASP is primarily carnivorous, and when looking for food will frequently fill the role of scavenger. The Dogman is adept at leaping and can jump as far as 12 feet across or further. Its habitat ranges from North America to Europe and Australia, and it primarily is seen in forests. The creature is nocturnal, akin to that of wolves. The phylogenies of the species are the kingdom Animalia, the phylum Chordata, the class Mammalia, the order Carnivora, the suborder Caniformia, and the family Canidae. In my research, there were also plenty of strangeness and men in black encounters, but for the time being, I will omit them from this video for the sake of time and my sanity. Maybe I will discuss it another time. Thank you for watching all the way through. If you liked the video, you can hit the like button and subscribe for future uploads. I really hope you enjoyed. Goodbye.